You watched a wild, close game that came down to a handful of plays. Final score: Dallas Cowboys 31, Kansas City Chiefs 28. And if you're a Chiefs fan, this one stings because you could see both the sparks and the cracks on the same drives. The Chiefs jumped out with early momentum. Rashee Rice helped give Kansas City life with a big play and an early touchdown, and the offense looked capable of moving the ball. Patrick Mahomes finished with multiple touchdown throws and did everything he could to keep drives alive. But Dallas answered in kind, and the game turned into a chess match where several small edges went the Cowboys' way. Scoring by quarter shows the pattern. KC got the early points, the Cowboys controlled the middle quarters, and the fourth was a back-and-forth sprint, where the difference was a couple of stops and a late field goal that ultimately decided it. Stat lines tell the story of how explosive the Chiefs' offense could be. Mahomes finished with multiple passing TDs, while Rashee Rice posted a big receiving game that was one of his best yet. Still, the defense gave up chunks at inopportune times, and a few situational mistakes, third down stops, and special teams moments left Kansas City short. There were also in-game injury scares to keep an eye on. Brian Cook left a play and was monitored, and that will be something the staff updates on the official report. From a raw emotion standpoint, you felt hope late. Hollywood Brown's late touchdown cut the lead and put pressure on Dallas, but a prior Cowboys field goal and their ability to run out the clock in a critical sequence held them ahead. This chapter is about the facts you need now. Close loss, big offensive moments, Mahomes and Rice, a defense that needs answers, and an injury note to monitor. Drop a comment right now. Who was your game ball, Mahomes, Rice, or someone on defense? And vote in the comments poll. Was this loss because of offense, defense, coaching? If you're new here, please like the video and subscribe to help us reach 6,000 subscribers. It really helps the channel and keeps these breakdowns coming. Alright, let's grade the key players so you know who earned praise and who needs to answer some tough questions after this one. Start with Patrick Mahomes. He gave you everything you could reasonably ask for in a losing effort. He was accurate under pressure, drove the offense on late-game possessions, and finished with multiple touchdown throws that kept Kansas City in it to the final minutes. Mahomes' line, 23-34, 261 yards, 4 TDs, 0 INT. That stat line says two things at once. The offense was explosive and efficient at times, but the scoreboard still says loss, which means situational football, third downs, red zone defense, or a few costly plays decided the result. Rashee Rice gets a clear game ball candidate. This was one of his best showing as a Chief. He stretched the field, won contested catches, and finished with a big yardage day. Rice, 7 catches, 112 yards, 1 TD. His route running and ability to create separation on critical downs gave the offense a real vertical threat you haven't always seen consistently this season. Travis Kelce was his usual dependable self in the seams and as a safety valve. Even if he didn't post the flashiest numbers, his presence on key third downs and short yardage situations helped sustain drives and demanded constant attention from Dallas's linebackers and safeties. The running game showed flashes. Isaiah Pacheco picked up tough yards when called on, but the Chiefs couldn't lean on a sustained ground control strategy to chew clock in the middle quarters, which forced Mahomes back into high-leverage passing sooner than you'd prefer. On the offensive line, there were hustle plays and a few missed protections that showed up on pressure, and a couple of sacks. Overall, the protection was good enough to allow Mahomes to make plays, but not consistently enough to control tempo. Defensively is where the headlines bite. The unit gave up chunk plays on multiple drives and wasn't consistent enough on third down stops, which allowed Dallas to keep possession at clutch moments. Those situational failures are what separate a one-score win from a one-score loss. The pass rush had moments, Chris Jones and the edge rushers created pressure in bursts, but it didn't force the kind of turnover or hurried throws you needed late. Special teams had a mixed night. A field goal stood up as the game winner, and that swing of 3 points is its own story. Injuries you saw in-game matter here too. Brian Cook left the field after a collision and was monitored. That's something the staff will need to update on the official report and could affect safety depth if he's limited. So how do you grade individual effort? Mahomes, A for performance but B for situational support around him. Rice, A for impact and growth. Kelsey, B+ for steady influence. Defense overall, C+ for inconsistent stops and missed assignments at key moments. Now tell me, who gets your game ball and why? Drop a comment naming the player and one play that earned your vote. Also vote in the poll. Was the defensive inconsistency the real reason this slipped away? Yes or no? And if you're finding this breakdown useful, hit like and subscribe to help us reach 6,000 subscribers so I can keep these post-game grades coming. Now let's talk coaching and the X factors that decided this one, because games like this rarely hinge on a single play. They hinge on a string of decisions, small advantages, and how coaches respond when the game gets tight. First, Andy Reid and Matt Nagy did plenty of things right. The offense moved the ball in chunks, and the play designs got Mahomes opportunities to target Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce in high-leverage spots. That aggressiveness led directly to the points that kept KC within striking distance. At the same time, the sequence management in the middle quarters and some situational calls are where this game slips into what-if territory for Chiefs fans. The most obvious theme was situational defense and third-down performance. When Dallas needed a few key first downs to drain the clock or extend a drive, Kansas City didn't find the stop it needed. And that places pressure back on play calling because it shortens your margin for error. On offense, the staff generally stayed aggressive enough to generate points, but there were moments you could argue for different clock and personnel choices. For example, leaning the run game more on a long clock sequence to force Dallas to play from behind, or calling a quicker tempo to preserve time in the final drive. Those are judgment calls where the outcome can easily flip either way. Special teams also played an X-factor role. The Cowboys' successful field goal that ultimately decided the game highlights how 3 points can be the decisive margin. That single swing means special teams execution and coaching trust in the kicker become part of the narrative. Another coaching layer was in-game adjustments. Dallas found a few schematic answers to neutralize KC's middle-of-field options, and Kansas City's counter-adjustments didn't completely blunt those looks. That suggests the opponent made a few better halftime or late-game tweaks, which is on both the defensive staff and the positional coaches to diagnose and fix. Fourth down philosophy looms large after a one-score loss. Do you play aggressively to flip field position and ownership? Or do you trust your defense to make a stop? This staff has shown flexibility in the past, and this game will reopen that debate among the fan base. Should the Chiefs be more aggressive on fourth downs going forward? Vote in the comments, yes or no. A final X factor to call out is tempo and clock usage in the 2-minute and late fourth situations. Mahomes engineered a late scoring drive that showed clutch play, but earlier clock management sequences didn't create the same time advantages you'd want when mounting a full comeback. Overall grade for coaching here is mixed. Clear offensive creativity and trust in Mahomes, but defensive adjustments and situational play calling, clock, fourth down, special teams alignment left some questions that Reid, Nagy, and the defensive staff will need to answer quickly if the Chiefs want to avoid similar heartbreaks. If you want a separate, frame-by-frame breakdown of one specific coaching decision, I'll do it next video. Tell me which drive, quarter, and time in the comments. And don't forget, hit like and subscribe to help us reach 6,000 subscribers so we can keep these tactical breakdowns coming. So now that you've lived through the frustration of a close, winnable game slipping away, let's take a clear look at what this Cowboys loss actually means for the Chiefs going forward. A 3-point defeat on the road doesn't change the core truth about this team. Kansas City can score in bunches, Mahomes is still playing elite football, and Rashee Rice is emerging at exactly the right time. But the margin for error has tightened. In the playoff picture, every AFC contender in the upper middle tier is clustered within a game or two of each other, which means outcomes like this one matter more in tiebreaks than the score suggests. What you take away from this matchup is simple. The Chiefs' offense looks capable of putting up postseason-level production, but the defense and situational execution have to get fixed immediately. The bright side is that the problems are correctable. They're not structural weaknesses, they're situational ones. Missed third-down stops, red zone leverage, and a handful of explosive plays allowed are all areas Steve Spagnuolo has tightened up before. And history says the staff tends to adjust well after a game like this. On the injury front, all eyes should be on Bryan Cook after he left a play earlier. His status affects depth and personnel flexibility. So keep an eye on the next official injury report. If he misses time, the Chiefs may promote from within or adjust rotations to protect the back end. On offense, the takeaway is less about what's broken and more about what's ready to surge. Rice is becoming the true WR1 threat you've been waiting for. Hollywood Brown showed clutch value late, and Kelce continues to be the stabilizer in the middle of the field. If the defense can give this offense one or two more stops a game, Kansas City swings back into the driver's seat of the AFC race. Looking ahead, the checklist for the next matchup is clear. Improve early down defense to avoid long Dallas-style drives. Protect Mahomes just a bit better in the middle quarters, and continue building chemistry between Rice, Brown, and Kelce. You should also watch for any roster tweaks, depth moves, practice squad elevations, or defensive back rotations that signal how the staff plans to respond. Before we wrap up, drop a quick comment. Do you want a full breakdown of the top 3 plays that swung this game next episode? Just reply yes or no. And if you appreciate these deep dive recaps, take a second to like the video and subscribe to help the channel reach 6,000 subscribers. It's the simplest, strongest way to support the film and breakdown content we bring you every week. Whenever you're ready,